Hey, TIR family, we're moving right into lesson five here. We came off of lesson four, the secret genie, magical genie, whatever, stick person. It was interesting to me that we wait till lesson four to introduce the genie, but the cool part about thinking into results is that we introduce things. I feel like the program is designed pretty darn perfectly for the way that one lesson goes into another lesson. But it all kind of intertwines and intermingles. It's all one thing. It really is. It's just a different explanation for those things. But the secret genie, the stick person, is it's so powerful. Like right in the beginning, you imagine with a worthy ideal, if we got the secret genie, if we got the stick person in there, we would understand what we were doing and why it's so important that we feel like we have our goal already because we're programming our subconscious mind to do that. But we just do it anyway. Bob just keeps it really simple. So you get your worthy ideal and you're feeling that thing, and it's going to cause you to take different action out there into the world. As you're taking different action, you're always going to run into what we call problems or resistance. And that's you growing. There's nothing wrong with that. We just have to look at those problems and that resistance differently. We get stuck in a world where we're afraid to fail, and failure is nothing bad. It's just feedback. And you learned how to walk through failure or speak through failure. Everything that we learned in this world, we've done it through failure. Failure is just the process of learning how to do something. And if we avoid failure, we thus avoid success. So if we're not figuring out how to think about things in a different way to get past our problems, then we're not going to get our goal. And that's what this lesson really is about. This lesson is called Thinking into Results. And you're going to understand why. You've been through this before, most of you. And but we'll explain as we go is that what most of the world is doing is results into thinking, and that just creates this cycle that just happens again and again and again and again, and we wonder why that's happening that way, and we have to switch it for thinking into results. The first person on this quote here as we start this lesson is Buckminster Fuller. He was an architect, but he had really cool uh, things to say in terms of how do you how do you overcome stuff like in the world, like in architecture? It's such a tangible thing. And he said, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. And that's exactly what we're doing with ourselves. We can't fight with our old self and keep breathing life into that and giving all this emotion to that. And like, why is it? Why, anytime we're thinking about it and putting emotion on it, whether we want it or we don't, we're keeping it alive. We really need to just discard that and grow into the new person that you need to grow into, because that person is, as you're continually growing into a new person over and over again, that person is capable of anything because you're infinite and you're just expressing more of that and more of that. But in order to express more of that and more of that, you constantly have to shed the old self. Just get rid of the old model and grow into the person who does that. Grow into the person who's a healthy, fit person. Grow into the person who's financially free. Grow into the person who has great relationships, whatever it is. You can't sit and fight bad relationships and bad health and maybe bad financial situations. You can't fight against those things to make them disappear. You have to create something new. And that's what this quote is about. Einstein hits on this too when he says, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. It's so true. Yet people do that over and over and over again. They just get down on the problem and they think about the problem. And it's so easy to talk about. It's full of emotion. It doesn't make us feel good, but it makes us feel comfortable because maybe that's something that we do or something that we know. We have to learn to just let that stuff go. It's time to create new thinking. And that's what this program is thinking into results. So the name of the whole program. And remember, a worthy ideal is something you're going to do that you've never done before. So we're pushing the boundaries of you. We're going to run into problems. It's part of it. Embrace it. The biggest thing that we're going to do is learn how to overcome those problems. Become the person who overcomes those problems. We don't want those problems erased. We want to become the person who that's no longer a problem for. That's our job here with thinking into results. Learning how to create that person inside of you. So why do we do the things that we do in this world? Because we're taught, as Bob says in this lesson, to live through our senses, hooked up to our conscious mind, see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. We've been taught to live from the outside in, what we would call the thermometer. So we keep getting this result out in the world, and then we become emotional about that result, and then that causes us to take action to produce that result again. It doesn't matter if we want it or we don't want it. It's that we're thinking about it, we're spending time with it. We begin to see the world that way. Now, in the smaller level, or whatever you want to call it, the energy level, we're actually attracting. Whenever you're thinking about something, you're attracting that stuff to you. But when you think about you and the person that we're creating here, is that you're creating it so that you accept that. That's what you're looking for in the world. And lo and behold, solutions are all around you, but you can't see them. This just happened yesterday. I was showing Jen a solution, but I didn't realize that I'd spend the time like feeling like I knew the solution was coming. And when it showed up, I was very thankful for it. And I showed it to her and she couldn't see the solution. And that's okay. It just meant that she hadn't spent any time with it. You're not conditioned to see it. And yet the answers to overcome whatever it is that you want, it's all around you right here, right now. Where's it going to come from? Wherever it is right now. And it's all around you. You just have to condition yourself to be ready to receive it. To be ready to receive it is to feel like you have it already. A little bit of a sidebar there, though. But we don't do that. Why don't we do that? Because we're programmed to live through our senses. What can our senses really do for you? Your senses can only tell you about what's going on right now and a little bit about what's gone on in the past. They are not creative faculties. They're antenna that are receiving feedback from the world. The creative faculty is in you, and that's what we're about to dive into right now with this lesson. Our mental faculties are our tool bag, living from the inside out, our perception, reason, imagination, will, intuition, and memory. Now, in this lesson, we don't focus on intuition and memory as creative faculties, although they are your higher faculties. But what we focus on is perception, reason, imagination, and will to create more solutions. But in order to do that, we say, well, what are these things? Well, perception is just a point of view. It's a different perspective, maybe from a different person. Person doesn't even have to be alive. When we talk about this in this lesson, it doesn't matter. You can really get your mind to go into bigger places when you start to think of something as somebody else. I often use this in health and fitness when somebody comes up and they say, well, I have this problem and I can't do it. And my life, it doesn't let me, have the health and fitness that I want and blah, blah, blah. They say, well, let's just stop right there. Let's calm down. Let's imagine somebody who, like, you want to achieve whatever health and fitness goal it is that you want. Who can you think in your mind that this would not be a problem for them? They could absolutely do it. And you get that person clear in your mind. It might be somebody that, maybe it's a celebrity or it's a trainer that or whatever the case is. And ask the person, if that person were to jump into your body right now in your life, would they start getting the results that you wanted? And they know right away that the answer is yes. Like, why? Because that's a different point of view. That's a different belief. That's a different thinking and feeling. But nothing's changed. They're going to be operating your body, but they're going to start getting different results, right? And what would they do? That's a big question. And all of a sudden, your mind just expands out there through perception of what would they do? You're thinking in a bigger way. Well, these would be some of the things that they would do. Can I do that? Yeah. There it is. It's not so limited as we like to believe it is a lot of times when we're stuck in the problem or stuck using the same thinking that created our problem, as Einstein put it. We can get out of that with perception. Reason gives you the ability to think, create, and accept, reject thoughts and ideas. This wonderful energy flowing to us and through us all day long, and we have the ability to shape it into any form that we want. But we generally shape it into a form of what we're feeling about something. Like I said, if it's not going to work or whatever the case is. But remember that you have the ability to think anything that you want, anytime that you want. Doesn't matter what's going on around you. Nothing can make you think and feel something that you don't want to think and feel. So don't do that. Build the thoughts. So as Bob said, think great thoughts. That's it. Think great thoughts about you. Think great thoughts about what you're doing. It comes to mind right now as I was thinking is I was working on something. And when we're working a lot of times and we're going after our dream, we don't have a lot to show for it a lot of times. It's not like this steady bit of progress and we can just get progress reports and show it to people like we did in school. A lot of times you're working on something and there's nothing to show for it. And I was thinking about Einstein. I've heard 1,000 times to create the light bulb or 10,000 times to create the light bulb. But before he actually created this light bulb that we all use today and we're thankful for, he didn't have anything to show. He just kept failing and failing and failing. Like, what kept him going? He had to have that belief because I'm sure there was a lot of people around him who was like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, yeah, I'm working in the lab and I'm trying to do, this thing. And, well, what have you come up with? Like, nothing. Like he just had a whole bunch of different ways of how not to do it, a whole bunch of failure, but he was able to keep going and have good thoughts that he knew that one day he was going to invent something that changed the world. And so he did. You know, we can have those same thoughts too. He was able to form his own thoughts, and so are you. Imagination is the faculty, some say our most high faculty. Some people say God is imagination, human imagination living inside of us. But we can create any fantasy, any image that we want. As we turn to be adults, we start thinking in ways that we only use our imagination in negative fashion. So we think about doing something and then we think about all the reasons why that can't happen. And then we get emotionally involved in those images. And then we wonder why it doesn't work out with it. We have to change that because as kids, we didn't come into the world doing that. As kids, we were creating fantasies about all the things that we wanted. That was our natural state of mind. And it's just this overall paradigm of what it means to be an adult got set into us and say, no, we sit around and we talk about negative stuff and why things don't work out and why they're not good. No, don't do that. That's not a happy life. Your imagination can create any image or any fantasy that you want. And if you can see it in your head, if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. There wouldn't be an image that would be placed in your mind, you know, that you could create, that you couldn't actually produce out there in the world. Like it's already been done. And actually, the process of using your imagination, it's already been created. As Bob said, things are created twice. One has always been in somebody's mind. This computer, me talking to you, being on Zoom, this PowerPoint, whatever, this idea, thinking into results, it all started in somebody's mind in the form of imagination. And then it gets built and shown out into the world. Powerful, powerful tool. Start to learn to use your imagination in a way that benefits you and doesn't drag you down. And your will, this is the final one that we're using, you know, in this lesson to build what it is that we want and get our goal. Will gives you the ability to hold one picture, a thought on the screen of your mind to the exclusion of all outside distractions. And it is something that I work on regularly because there are so many distractions in the world. And when we do things, a lot of times we don't have a lot of time to do the things that we need to do. We need to be 100% focused on that so we can be very effective and then we can set that thing aside and then we can move on to the next thing. What most people are doing is what they call quote unquote multitasking, and they're changing from, you know, thing to thing to thing, trying to keep up with what's going on in the world, but they're never getting one thing done effectively. Like I did a really good job at that, and I did that effectively in a short amount of time. It's the power of the will that gives us the ability to do that. Really focus. If you notice that us coaches or somebody that studied thinking into results, when somebody starts to speak to us, we turn to that person and we look them, you know, in the face or the eye or whatever it is they want, but you put your full attention on the person. And you're not thinking about what you want to respond with or the right thing to say or how to solve this. You just really focus on the person and what it is that they're saying. Like that's it. And you're taking it in. And when we're able to do that in a one-on-one way with people, it's amazing the things that show up. But it's so rare that you get somebody who can do that. Like a lot of times you'll get 3, 4, 5 words into what it is that you're going to say. And the person that you're speaking to already knows what it is that they need to say. And so they just talk over you. And then they just start saying this next thing. It has nothing to do with what you needed or whatever. It has everything to do with that person needing to speak at that point. As you get into the coaching, we find that it just becomes very natural that we just lean in and listen with all of our heart. And we accept at that moment, like, I don't need to have any kind of solution or anything. Like, I'm just listening with all my heart to this person. I realize that I don't even create the solution. It's not me anymore. Like if I'm leaning in and I'm listening to somebody with all my heart, it's like the solution just comes flying in. Like that's the thing that I think like that's God. I don't even know what that is. And it's amazing. A lot of times you'll just say it and then somebody's like, wow, thank you so much. That's amazing. And you feel like inside you're like, I don't even know that came from me, you know? Anyway, will, focusing on one just thing. It needs to be developed. Now, the other two are intuition and memory. Intuition picks up on vibration and translates those vibrations, but that's more of a receptive creative faculty. So if you've been spending time with your goal and feeling your goal achieved, how awesome that feels, you're going to pick up on stuff through your intuition. You're going to listen to people talk differently. Like Bob said, I set the goal for 25,000. All of a sudden you heard somebody say, hey, there's good money in cleaning floors. If he was thinking about his debt and all the bad things that were going on in his life, he never would have heard that. And he never would have took that leap forward. That's intuition. And you're setting up your intuition to win when you're spending time with your imagination, feeling your goal achieved already. And that's how we really use that. But we don't use that like as an initial creative faculty. It's more of a receptive faculty. And then one of our higher faculties too is memory. We have perfect memories. We just don't know how to use our memory because we haven't been trained in how to use our memories. Our memories are based on association. We only have strong memories and weak memories. There are no good or bad memories. We're either associating a moment in time with something that we want or we don't want. And that's when we say, okay, that was a good memory or bad memory. But all that stuff is susceptible to change. You could say, what was good about that moment? If you have a memory that's really bad, you say, okay, what's good about that moment? What was good about the moment? You can gradually begin to train yourself to let go of bad memories. And that's a good thing to do if those bad memories are bringing you down. They make you feel bad. But memory is perfect too, because memory is about association. We haven't figured out what the limits of human memory really is, but it's not by repeating something and then downloading it, in some kind of fashion where we have the text like a computer. Our memories are built around association. So as we say, many people will have the belief, they say, I don't remember names well. So if you believe that you don't remember names well, when you talk to somebody, the first thing your brain does or mind does is as soon as they say their name, it's like, oh, go hide that because I don't believe that I remember names well. And sure enough, like it's like just a minute later and you're like, oh my gosh, what's this person's name? Like because you're operating with that programming. But really, it's through association that we can remember people's names and whatever you want to remember. Like tell yourself a story about it. And when it comes to names, we say often you can associate that person with somebody that you know. They might look like a celebrity, or they might look like something. It's not something that you need to say out loud. But the moment you make an association that somebody says their name, instead of thinking, I don't remember that, and you reject the name, you say, I remember that. That's my programming. I'm really good at remembering names. And you associate it with something. Like maybe their name's Julia and they look like Julia Roberts. And like immediately you can think of Julia Roberts and you can think of them. And then that association happens and it's stuck. Like you always remember it at that point. All of a sudden you're good at remembering names. It's just because you're learning to use your memory, your higher faculty in a better way. So those are all your higher faculties. We're going to use perception, reason, imagination, and will today as our creative faculties. And remember, intuition is just a receptive one. And then your memory is perfect. It's a higher faculty and can be developed very well, way more than what we think that it can be developed. What's the next thing? Mental faculties. Again, they're perfect and they don't require development. They're not something you're either born with or not. That's a misnomer. They get atrophied, as we say. They shrink and muscle speak, and we talk about going to the gym and stuff. You don't use something, it atrophies, it just shrinks down. Your body says, I don't need that. Well, it's no different with your mental faculties. Once we get older, we're taught to live through our senses, see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. And we have a tendency for our mental faculties to become atrophied. So we really want to just dive in and start developing them again because they're our creative faculties. They're creating our life. Which faculty is your biggest challenge? Like face that. Are you good at imagination? Can you use your imagination to create what it is that you want? If you're not good at it, it doesn't mean don't do it. I just posted this today too, by the way. We will waste our time doing nothing before we'll waste our time doing something that we don't think will work. So you have to believe that spending time to do something, to develop this faculty. Bob uses will. He says, you can just stare at a candle flame or you can stare at a dot on the wall, but you must believe that you're going to get better at it. You must believe that it's going to work for you. And when you find the one, like that's the one that I want to work on, if it's calling to you, believe that spending the time imagining yourself the way that you want to be or holding your thought on just one thing or creating new thoughts. Like I'm somebody that can create a thought that is so far out of the box. I love it. Like think that about yourself. Believe that about yourself. Otherwise, you're not going to do it. You'll waste your time doing nothing. Say, I'm not going to spend my time doing this thinking into results lesson. It doesn't work. Takes too long, too hard, whatever. Don't do that. So my biggest challenge was will for a long time, but I'm finding that I'm able to hold my will on my the feeling of having my goal already. Like that's all that it is. It's not about all the things that are around you and stuff. Like what does that feel like when you have that? And when you hold that thought that you have that already and that feeling, that's through will. And you'll notice that stuff has a tendency to slip away really quick when it goes on a different thought tangent and a different thought tangent. That the more you're able to not say, I need to know how to do that and just hold your thoughts on that, you're doing such powerful work. And that was one that I worked on creating. I have to say, I still work on creating it. I usually do it when I'm walking the dog, just feeling that feeling. You're already that person. Um, but whether it's imagination, perception, will, whatever, pick your faculty and start working on it. Now, thinking like the masses, this is what we were just talking about at the beginning of this. This is why we're doing this stuff. Most people begin with present results, and the box is around present results. They feel and think about those present results. They complain about them, whatever. It's just something that we're taught to do. It's habit, and they do it again and again. And this stuff just keeps showing up. In that article last week about being human, rules for being human, he talks about that. He says, the same lesson is going to show up in your life again and again and again. It shows up in different forms, but it's the same thing. And you're going to continue to see that lesson until you overcome it. Like that's just the way life works. And we don't overcome it by getting emotionally involved with that. But that's what most of the world does. We call it thinking like the masses. 99.9% of the world is not getting what it is that they want because they get emotionally involved with present results. And think about this. Whether the present results are good or bad, don't ever get emotionally involved with them because they still have the power. Like you be you and think positive thoughts and feel good because that's what you do. That's the person that you are. You're the opulent force. You're the one that's in control. That's what you want to learn how to do. You say, well, what about celebrating the wins? That's fine. Celebrate the wins, but don't let them have any effect on whether you're a happy person, period. Like you always want to be a happy person. You want to be a joyful person in a positive vibration because that's an attractive state. And you're the one that's in control of that. So anytime we take these present results and allow them to dictate our thoughts and cause our feelings and our actions, something outside of us is controlling us. And we really want to get outside of that and just let that go. We most definitely don't want to do it with negative stuff, but you really just want to get to a point where you just disconnect from your results, period. That's going to be your highest level of happiness. And how do we do that? We do that by focusing on the thoughts and the ideas first. We create new thoughts and ideas, the faculty of reason. As I said, you can have any thought that you want. Why not have great thoughts? Why not have gratitude thoughts? Why not have whatever? And feel those thoughts that feel really good because that's going to be those feelings that cause the new action, which produce new results. This is like thinking like what we'd say less than 1% of the world and what they do. And most people that do this to get the results that they want, they don't even know that they're doing it. So they can't explain it to people. And they give them this checklist like, this is what you got to do to be in shape. This is what you got to do to be a good real estate agent, a good insurance agent. This is what you got to do to be a good athlete. Like it's a list of whatever stuff. It has nothing to do with that stuff. I mean, you could do those things and they would probably work for you because the success leaves clues and it's there for you. But if you're not having the thoughts about those things that are making you feel, you're not choosing to have the thoughts that are making you take new actions in new ways to get a new result, it's just not going to matter. You could do anything that you want. You're feeling badly about it. It's just not going to work for you. Anyway, that's the idea. A little bit of a rant there. Always begin with new thoughts and ideas and understand yourself to be that creative person that way. Have those new feelings and new actions. And when your results come up, when you receive those through your senses, then you just ask yourself those questions like what was good about that? Like what did improve and what would I like to improve? And then have new thoughts about that. Like you've already got that improvement. What does that feel like? You're going to receive those answers on what actions to take. You're going to feel it and you're going to take them and you're constantly evolving and getting better and getting better and getting better. So this is the whole point of this lesson. That's what it does. That's what it walks you through. It's very simple. Key points. We have been gifted with these mental faculties. And it's our responsibility to learn how to utilize them and develop these to higher faculties to a great degree. It's our job to do that. Most of the world is not teaching this. Mom and dad probably didn't teach you this. Your inner circle probably didn't teach you this. People don't know this. So it's our job to take this responsibility right now and develop this stuff. We're programmed to live from the outside in, and that program causes us to be the plaything for outside forces. I'm just going to say this plain and simple. My assignment for a lot of people is just not give a shit. Like you really have to get involved into that place where you just don't care. You don't get so emotionally involved because people can say or do whatever they want. We're all creatures of free will, and they could say you're crazy. They could say you're a bad person. They could say what it doesn't matter. We need to learn to disconnect from all that stuff and whatever else is happening and understand that you're the creative force in all that stuff. And we just stop living from the outside in. Just disconnect from those senses other than just get the feedback and is what do I want to change and then feel that. I'm getting repetitive here. I get fired up about this lesson. We should observe and be aware of what's going on in our outside world, but we are capable of creating our world with our higher faculties, not just accepting our current conditions and circumstance. Objectively observe what's going on in your outside world, but don't let it control your thinking, good or bad. Don't let it control your thinking. Think thoughts that will create the idea of what you want. And really, the key is think thoughts of what it feels like to have what you want already. Just be that now. That's the most powerful thing that you're ever going to be able to do. And how that shows up in your life, you have no control over it. It's not your business. If you look at the Bible says his ways are past finding out. Like that's a pretty big clue right there. It's just your job to hold the ideal of what it feels like to have it already. And then let things do whatever the things are going to do that make that thing show up in your life. But make sure that you're still being that person that's receptive to that. You're still feeling those thoughts because when you see it, it's a really exciting moment to be like, oh, cool. That is a great idea right there. I'm going to move forward on that. And life just becomes this succession of these great moments and great moments where you're kind of being inspired and your intuition's picking up on stuff. This is the way you're receiving your goal. That's based on the fact that you were feeling those things. And if you're not feeling those things, then those things aren't showing up for you. That's just the way that it works out. You're feeling something else, so something else is showing up for you. At that point, you consciously observe the new result and you mentally adapt the new result and you immediately begin to think thoughts that create the idea of how to improve upon it. You stay in charge of you. Don't let the outside world control you. You control the outside world by creating those thoughts that we just talked about right now. So think of a situation in your external environment. What's the situation? What's your thinking and feeling about this situation? Just get all that stuff out, the current stuff, just spit it out. And what are the actions you're taking because of your thinking? What are the results that are being created? Are you getting the same result over and over again? Is your thinking helping you get your desired results, or is it not? Like, just answer that objectively. Don't judge yourself. And now shift it. Your thinking process, look at the result, describe the result. Is this something you want? If not, begin to think of what you do want, build the image of what you do want in your mind. What new thoughts can you have about this situation? How can you think about this situation differently? What new feelings could you have about this new image? How do you feel about these new thoughts? And what actions are you inspired to take as a result of these feelings? It's like it starts to happen immediately. It's such a powerful thing. Where will these actions lead you to what results? What one action can you commit to take this week that will support your new thinking and the achievement of your goal? And I want to show you something. Is I know I've said this before, but I was thinking of somebody that had a computer problem and they just fast forwarded and they were having trouble and like, what if I didn't have this information? Oh my gosh, this is going to get worse, and then my whole life's going to go down the tubes, or whatever the case was. And I went through this with somebody actually. Their whole life was on their computer, and they'd been on the phone with Apple support, they'd been on the phone with tech support here, there, and they couldn't do it and couldn't do it. And I'm not a tech person. I tell you guys that all the time. It's just a belief I have, and I don't really care because I don't want to be a tech person. Like I love doing what I'm doing. I love talking to people about their higher side and bringing that out and then just send them out in the world to go do great things. That's my happiest place. So I just be that guy. I don't want to be the tech guy. But this person is talking to me about a tech problem. And I just stopped and I realized like I'm not going to tell you what button to hit on the computer that's going to work or not work. But I know what the solution is because I do thinking into results and what does it feel like to have the answer. Like if your computer was restored, if everything was fine, like they'd lost their data, I think is what it was. It was just lost. It was completely lost. And so when I first asked the question, they said, well, it would be good. It would be good. I said, no. Like, not like that. Like, what would you say? What would you say to me? Like, I would say, that's great. Well, good. Let's say that. Let's do that. And it feels foolish because we're not taught to do those things. But I said, just let it go. You've tried everything. You had the Apple support. You had the tech support. Let's just feel it. Like, be that right now. Be that. And only for being that, I want to say it was just seconds. Like it could not have been longer than 30 seconds. This person had to get off of the phone with me because they knew exactly what to do. The answer was there. It was inspired. They took the action and all their data was back present. And it's so powerful. This stuff is that way. The only thing that holds us back from doing it is that it's not a habit. It hasn't been built into us. We didn't learn this since kindergarten. So it's a little bit off base. It's like a different language. You're doing something new. But just because it's new doesn't mean it doesn't work. It's one of the most powerful things that you're ever going to do in your life. They give you control of your life. So don't discredit it just because it's a little different from you or what you've known in the past. Do it. Do it no matter what, and it will change your life no matter what. So this is Matt here, Thinking into Results family. I hope you take this information and you use it to create everything that you want in this world and be as happy as you possibly can. I will see you next week when we dive into self-image.